Hello everyone, this is KID the Man bringing you all another Rush figure review of the Hasbro's Power Rangers Lightning Collection Remastered Mighty Morphin Green Ranger. This is the second remastered Ranger that I've got, and this Rush review is a summarization from when I've taken a look at this figure from my recent livestream. So that way you guys won't have to sit through the entire VOD just to see your favorite figures on the screen. As this is a Rush review, I'm recording my opinions live, so do expect some mumbling and fumbling. So without further ado, let's get started. I guess the first thing to address about this figure is the shade of green this figure is using. It's a slightly lighter green color as compared to the other Green Rangers that we've had, both the Fighting Spirit version and the single release Green Ranger from Wave 6. I suppose this shade of green is meant to mimic the same shade of green that we've seen from the Green Candle episode. Even if one area is not 100% accurate, at least 95% of it is. Speaking of accuracy, we finally get an accurate version of the Green Ranger helmet. It is much more brighter and wider in size, plus the paint application is quite impressive. Although we still do not have the white visor outline with the silver teeth, it's pretty much 95% accurate. Another thing that I'm quite impressed with is the tiny shade of gold used around the red ruby on the forehead of the helmet. Other iterations of the Green Ranger did not have this, so I am quite impressed that Hasbro did invest in including this particular gold paint. The mouth plate itself is nicely molded and painted, even if there's a tiny little paint splotch of silver at the corner of the mouth plate. From the side, you can definitely see that the helmet is much more larger, and you can also see what I meant when Hasbro did not include the white along the visor. It's a real shame because even though this is still a remastered figure, we're still unable to get 100% accuracy on the design of the helmet. But honestly speaking, it doesn't really bother me. It might bother some other people though. One thing to note is that although the neck of the figure does look a little bit weird, it is actually in the correct position. I guess this is a conscious design choice, as this is meant to depict the American suits. The torso of the figure is using one of the new Lightning Collection body molds. It isn't like the one that we saw from Turbo Red or Lightspeed Blue, but this looks to be the remastered versions. It's also nice to see how the white diamonds look on the Green Ranger's torso, as we rarely get to see them. It is also nicely painted and centered, and the butterfly joints are molded in a solid white plastic just so that it fits the side diamonds. It's a minor nitpick, but the back diamonds are not properly centered. However, it's a very small off-center, so it shouldn't bother you that much. Honestly, the arms of the figure does look slightly bit off without these signature gold bands. Since the gold bands are not present here, we can see that the bicep of this particular figure is the exact same ones used for the rest of the remastered Rangers. Not to mention they're pinless as well. As for the belt of the figure, it looks pretty good. We can see that the power morpher is nicely molded and nicely painted as well, with all of the details of the dragon coin as well as the other type of paint applied are nicely printed on. Since the details of the morpher is printed on, you have to be extra careful as to not scrape off the paint details. Just like the rest of the remastered Rangers, the white on the belt does have the signature black lines. The belt doesn't actually have the lines molded on, so the paint is actually in risk of being scraped off. As you can see, the holster is the exact same holster that comes with all of the other main core members of the Mighty Morphin Remastered series, but only painted in black. Yes, you can still put the dragon dagger in it, but it does look a little bit off. If this Green Ranger's belt is supposed to depict the Green Ranger from the Green Candle episode, sorry to say, in that episode, the holster was actually in white instead of black. So it really isn't that screen accurate. However, if you were to compare it with the other footage of the American Green Ranger, then it's pretty much accurate. As for the hips of the figure, it is your classic drop-down hips. I say classic now because this is more or less going to be how the way the Lightning Collection will be from now onwards. The drop-down hips on mine are pretty tight, so I don't have to worry about it getting loose over time. However, if you are afraid of that, I do recommend you try to get some kind of joint tightener type of item. I still don't know what item that is though. The cuffs of the figure are actually molded in a green plastic, with the white and green and gold paint painted on. So it is kind of nice that they did use the shiny gold paint along the trim of the cuff, but if you look at it from a certain angle, you can kind of see how certain areas are a little bit lightly applied. The same thing goes for the boots of the figure, only this time the boots are actually molded in white plastic with the green and gold paint painted on. Even though this particular figure is a remastered figure, the bottom of the boots aren't actually painted in black, so you might have to do that yourself. He comes with weapon holding hands that move side to side, fists that moves up and down, the new Morpher holding hands, they move side to side as well, and the Dragon Dagger holding hands that moves up and down. He also gets his own Morpher. Now this Morpher is molded in a gold plastic with all of the details printed on. It's a hit or miss because sometimes the printing might get a little bit off-centered. It's still a cool accessory though. He also gets his Dragon Dagger, which is painted very nicely. Almost all of the tiny little nook and crannies of the Dragon Dagger has been painted, so if you want to keep those details on, try to be gentle with it. Something new for this particular set would be the green candle. This accessory is molded in a gold plastic with the green candle's green painted on, along with the burning candle painted in yellow. It's a nice little novelty piece, just like the wedding cake from the Lord Zed and Rita 2-pack. Following the trend of the remastered figures, we also get a new civilian hit. Now this civilian hit is pretty much very accurate, but when comparing it to other existing civilian hits, I kind of feel that this particular hit does look a bit 3D-ish. If Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were an animated series, this is what I would expect the hit to look like. But other than that, the hit did turn out pretty good, and it also includes an earring for Tommy. Tommy's brunette hair is nicely sculpted as well, as we can see it being very wavy, just like it did in the show. Now, although Tommy didn't use the Blade Blasters, but all 3 of the different Blade Blasters accessories does come with this set. So in the event if you were to miss out, or in the event if you would like some extra Blade Blasters to give to your older Mighty Morphin figures, this is one way to go about it. So you might be wondering which one is better. Well, let's compare him to the Fighting Spirit Green Ranger, as well as the standard release of the Green Ranger. As you can see here, the first draft of the helmet is very different, where the original is slightly a bit more slimmer and much more compact as compared to the remastered helmet, along with its minor paint discrepancies, where the ruby on the helmet doesn't have a gold trim, but at least the silver on the outer visor is consistent with the remastered version. From a moldings perspective, the Fighting Spirit Green Ranger's helmet is exactly the same as the standard release, with the only difference being the silver trim on the helmet, as well as the white paint on the outline of the visor. Now you might be thinking, if Hasbro can do it for the Fighting Spirit version, why can't they do it for the remastered? Well, looking at the Fighting Spirit version on the side, you can barely see the silver paint. So either Hasbro was trying to avoid this risk, or they just forgot about it entirely. The standard Green Ranger doesn't have his white diamonds underneath his shield, whilst the Fighting Spirit version does. For the standard releases belt, the dragon coin is nicely molded on, whereas the remastered version is printed on. The same thing goes for the Fighting Spirit version, only difference here being the Morpher isn't really painted in silver. Comparing the Dragon Dagger holster, the standard release one is the most accurate one that we've seen, and for the Fighting Spirit version, it's in the same shape design, with the only difference being in white and on the right hand side of the belt. When comparing the civilian hits, we can see that the standard release version of the Tommy hit does seem to have a realistic skin tone to it, whereas the remastered version really does look like a 3D animated character. It's pale is what I'm getting at. And when comparing it to the Fighting Spirit civilian hit, we can see that the remastered version is much more superior, as the Fighting Spirit hit is using the exact same one that we got from the White Ranger, which is basically the first draft of the Tommy hit sculpt. And out of all of these civilian hits, the Fighting Spirit version is the only one that doesn't have the earring. So let me know in the comments, which civilian hit is your most favorite one? Here he is next to the remastered Dragon Shield Red Ranger, a Dino Fury basic figure, the Legacy Collection Dr. Oliver, the Kotobukiya exclusive Metaclear Metabee, and Decade. So it's time for us to ask the most important question. Can this remastered Green Ranger put on the Dragon Shield from the remastered Red Ranger? Well, of course he can. Simply just by following the steps that I mentioned before in my previous review, you can actually install the Dragon Shield onto the Green Ranger. It's a super easy process that even a novice would not mess it up. But in case if you need a step-by-step guide, you really have to check out my previous review of the remastered Red Ranger. And just like that, we finally get a proper remastered Green Ranger. Now since the shield is actually swappable, you can even give the main dragon shield onto Jason, leaving the armbands on Tommy, just so that you can recreate that scene from the episode called Gung Ho. Now that has got to be some more phenomenal playability. So all in all, the remastered Green Ranger does not disappoint, although you might feel like you're getting a little bit shortchanged because he doesn't come with his dragon shield. What you're actually getting out of this set would be the corrected helmet, a very detailed dragon dagger, the green candle just for novelty purposes, and his new civilian head. Honestly speaking, even if you decide not to get the rest of the remastered Rangers, you have to at least get red and green, seeing as those are the only two figures that has the most worth. Plus, I bet they are the most wanted figures out of the whole remastered sets, since the rest are skippable. And who wouldn't want another Tommy on their shelf, huh? Because I can bet it would look really good on your Tommy display. And speaking of display, how does he look on the shelf? So, if you like this video, blast that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what do you think about the remastered Green Ranger. Share this video with your friends and family to let them know what to expect out of the remastered Green Ranger set. And of course, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 3,000 by the end of the year at least, so it would really help the channel. Thank you all so much for watching my live stream when I took a first impression look at the remastered Rangers, so I hope this summary video would be like an extra bonus to you. Since the Lightning Collection is going on hiatus, I'll slowly make special Lightning Collection videos for all of you until we get them back again. But until then, this is KID, I'm the man, and I'll see you all next time.